real estate investing all over the country. That's today's show. Let's dive into it. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris, longtime real estate investor, and back in 2017 left my day job in order to focus exclusively on real estate investing. And we focus here on this show about building financial freedom. So that is finding the number of properties it would take for you to live financially free every month. What are your family's expenses? It's simple to figure out. And then you sort of reverse engineer that with how many rental properties it would take for you to achieve financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to speak to an investor from the Pacific Northwest area of this country. He's been a longtime real estate investor, and he runs a brokerage up there in Portland, Oregon. My guest today is Paul Campbell. He's the owner and team leader of Core Group Portland, which is a real estate brokerage up there in Portland. And like I said, he's been investing for a long time. And Paul, great to have you here on the show. I thought it'd be fun for you and I to kind of, at first, examine sort of the horizon of the market and get a sense of what things look like across the country. So welcome to the show, Paul.
Hey, Clayton, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you having me on here. I love your stuff.
Oh, thanks so much, and thrilled to have you here on the show. So, Paul, you're up there in Portland, Oregon, and before we get into some of the differences in the markets, because this is a question I get all the time, right? Which is, oh my God, if we're in a housing bubble and I invest in this part of the country, will it affect me if something happens in Portland, Oregon? You know, how does it look on the East Coast? So we'll get into the sort of the markets, and I'm curious how it's different up there in the Pacific Northwest. But how did you get started in real estate investing? Give our audience a little overview and let them get to know Paul a little bit.
Oh man, I always tell people it was an accident, and I don't think that's far from the truth. It started when I was 14 years old, and I basically lied my way into getting a job at a retail bank as a new accounts guy. And obviously they don't usually hire people that young, so there was some trickery involved there. And then I thought I was kind of a big shot working for a bank when I was 14. So, I was always looking for what's next, thought I knew everything, jumped into the mortgage business before, oh gosh, if I give you a year, it'll light up in your head. It was probably 2003, 2004. So that business was going crazy. And then the writing started coming on the wall that was about to take a massive turn. I mean, you've seen the fallout. So I jumped into negotiating short sales, and shortly after realized that you needed a real estate license to be super successful at negotiating short sales. So that's kind of how we got started, and we pioneered a short sale process that's still being used to this day, at least in our area. And the rest is history, I guess. Total accident.
So you started Core Group Portland, that's the name of the company, which is a brokerage. Yep. So what do you do now? Walk me through what Core Group does now. And I'm curious to hear how this short sale strategy is still being used today, but you can get into that in a moment. But what does Core Group do? What does your day-to-day 9 to 5 look like?
Well, I'm running a team here for Core Group. We're up to 8 people. I recently sold out of the brokerage that I co-founded probably February of this year. So we started a new real estate team here from scratch, and kind of what I do day to day is help them grow their careers in real estate, which is probably one of my biggest whys, is real estate as the vehicle to financial freedom. That's kind of the day to day, but we've also found a way to kind of intertwine my investment experience into the brokerage business. So that's kind of our focus moving forward.
Well, let's get into some of that. So let's talk about how you've managed to entwine your investing strategy into the brokerage. First of all, take us back to your first deal, the deals that you started buying, that started acquiring, and how that then bled over into your day-to-day and into the brokerage. And how do you also then help your agents actually achieve that as well?
Well, gosh, my first deal is totally different than it is now. When I first started in real estate investing, I didn't have any money and the market just crashed. So what we were doing was we were essentially negotiating short sales and REO deals and flipping them to people that had money, the smart guys that didn't blow all their money before 2007. And so that's how we started the game, really. And when we started learning from those investors and seeing what they were doing, we started picking up a few on our own, and it grew from there. But the model is totally different now. Right now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say so the model then, of course, was you could get 100% financing. How has the model changed since then?
Oh, well, right now, when I first started, I think the biggest mistake I made was treating my real estate business like it was completely different than my investment business. And what I mean by that is our investment company, the entities that we were buying houses in or soliciting deals with, we tried very hard not to even admit that we had a real estate brokerage or that we were licensed agents. Obviously, you have to disclose your agency once you start talking about a deal, but we felt like those types of people had wanted nothing to do with a licensed agent or a brokerage. But the truth of the matter is, when people raise their hand with a need to sell a property, it's really similar. And the only difference is how you approach them. So the most recent thing that we did was, now whenever we find somebody raising their hand, whether it's from our calls that 1,000 calls a day does, asking if somebody wants a cash offer, or it comes in from our brokerage advertising for listings, we present them with both options, with the cash offer that's more geared towards investment, as well as what their net would be if they just listed it the traditional way. And we found that between 15 and 20% of the people really actually are better served with the cash offer, even though it's considerably lower, and they accept it.
Let's talk about the cash offer, because the cash offer, it might seem like, well, maybe you're just robbing these poor people, right? Not at all, because chances are that house needs a lot of work, right? Chances are they're better off selling it as is to an investor who's going to put $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 of their money into the property to fix it up. Very often, these types of properties you're talking about are, an inherited property. Maybe someone moves to a nursing home and the children have to deal with it now. And they go into this house and they're like, oh my gosh, grandma was living here. And then they don't know what to do. So they think, okay, I know it's a hot market here in Portland. Should we put it on the multiple listing service? Should we call a realtor and put it out there? And very often realtors are going to want really nice photos. They're going to do 360 virtual tours. They're going to do open houses. Mostly realtors aren't going to want to touch that for an open house, right? This is an as-is investor special, right? Absolutely.
And there's a place for that on the MLS, don't get me wrong. But I mean, what we found is it's just a better feeling relationship with somebody when you can present multiple options to them instead of just one, because then you're not so biased. You're not trying to sell people on something. You're genuinely looking out for something that will benefit them and their family. And your point to the condition of the property is huge. Since we started doing this, I can't tell you how many different reasons we've seen for people wanting to take that cash offer. And every single one of them is different, and every single one of them is fully valid.
Give me a few examples of that. I think for our audience that's not really familiar with that, I'm sure people would be thrilled and curious to hear just give me some of the differences and how wide the spectrum can be.
All right, so a couple months ago, we went on a listing appointment. The house was actually in really great shape, but the parents, they had 2 autistic children, and they wanted absolutely nothing to do with showings, unexpected interruptions in their family life, the inconvenience of having to keep the house a certain way all the time. And they took the cash offer for a job relocation.
Yeah, perfect example, because you're hitting on something that's really important for people to pay attention to. It's the motivation, right? So the reason that Paul and I are successful in what we do is because we're buying properties off market, right? And we're buying them mostly where they're not hitting the multiple listing service. Half the time we're talking to motivated sellers that have a property that's in disrepair, that they're maybe embarrassed to show publicly, right? They don't want people walking through their living room. But they know that if I come in, I'm going to buy it. They're not going to be embarrassed. They have nothing to be embarrassed about. They can move out and move to their next place, and I'm going to rip it apart and put a new furnace, new water heater, new paint color, cabinets, do the windows, roof, flooring, all of those things. It's nothing they need to be embarrassed about, but it's also something that they don't have to then spend the money on also, right? They don't have to come out of pocket to fix it up so that you can get nice photos, right?
Yeah. Well, some people just can't come out of pocket.
Right.
That's the one we get quite a bit actually is, with this process, it allows us to be amazingly transparent when we're talking to people. So we can tell people straight up, like, this house is not ideal. Here's why. You've got this, and this is what that's going to do to people when they come through your property. This is going to cost you X amount of dollars unless you do the work yourself. And like, we break it down on a spreadsheet, show them 3 different options that they can take and why, and then it's their idea. I mean, people have this misconception of sales that you're tricking people or convincing somebody. Like, human beings aren't convinced.
Right.
It has to come from inside of them.
Right. So. Like the people that work with us at Morris Invest, like, I don't ever want anyone working with us that doesn't want to buy a house. If we have to twist your arm, then that's a bad fit, right? We want you to know that, hey, real estate is the number one way to build wealth. You're coming to us, and you're right about that. That's a powerful message too with these sellers, because they're looking at it saying, okay, I can take this cash offer for $100,000, or maybe I could waste 3 months of time, maybe putting it on the multiple listing service. It needs a lot of work. I might be able to get a little bit more money if I do it that way, but I just need the cash now. I just want it now. I don't want to have to deal with it, for a number of months.
Some people just want to pay the convenience tax. I was reading an article about Century 21 just the other day, and it said that 40% of the people they surveyed would rather have a root canal than list their house.
I think you're absolutely right, especially in the retail market. I mean, it is a royal pain in the butt. It can be, right? Because you have to then get everything cleaned out, take personal pictures off the wall, because we hear all the time that people don't like to see pictures of other families if they're walking through a house that they're trying to picture themselves in, right? You've got to get everything cleaned up. You've got to hire a photographer. They've got to come in and take really nice photos. You've got to do showings. Our neighbor right now is doing showings, and they have to leave, on the weekend. They have to leave for like 4 hours at a time with their dogs and their 3 kids, and it's a pain.
1 hour notice. Get out. Right. Let's go. We got a showing. Yeah.
Right. You got to clean everything up, and it can be a mess. So I totally agree with you on that. So let's talk about that strategy then for your investments going forward. So those early ones that you were picking up, it's kind of shifted now. What types of properties are you personally buying, and how are you helping your team members also start to acquire and build financial freedom?
Well, I got to tell you, man, I think it's fortuitous, if you will, that I am on your show, because I have just had this amazing aha moment about buy and hold properties. I am almost embarrassed to admit to you now that our focus for the last 10 plus years has been primarily fix and flip. And we probably missed the boat on a ton of amazing cash flowing properties, because that just wasn't what our focus was. And over the last year and a half, my eyes have been open to the possibilities of out-of-state investing, because Portland is a terrible market for cash flow, and all kinds of beautiful things about buying and holding and getting that monthly cash flow to cover that your monthly nut with your family, your freedom number, or whatever it was that you called it. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of transitioning into like a 4-to-1 process, where we flip 4 and we try and keep 1, or take the proceeds from the ones that we flip and go buy something out of state.
That's great. So even if you're able to hold it for a short amount of time and do a 1031 exchange and roll that into some out of state investments, that's the thing on the West Coast. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about, some of the markets. My rule of thumb here, if you've heard me talk on the podcast, is, really shouldn't be buying any single families above $150,000, because beyond that, the rent value just does not keep up with the cost of the house. You could argue 175 maybe, but mostly in that range. You've got to be below that cost for a single family in order for the ROI to be there. So then it forces you to go out of state. I mean, so many of our investors at Morris Invest are from California, in the West Coast, because it's so darn expensive to try to find properties that there's just no way you're going to buy properties in your backyard. So you have to kind of go out of state and start to find deals across the country. Is that what you're seeing right now in Portland? Is it hard to find sort of those buy and hold deals in that area?
Portland is a disaster for rental properties, especially in the inner city. If you're looking here for cash flowing single family residences, just please do yourself a favor and don't even bother.
What's the average price?
The average price point in Portland right now is a hair over 400.
Wow.
And you're not going to get anywhere near that 1% rule with that. You might be at 1,800 for something that you buy for 400.
Right.
You're so right. There's 900, 1,000, 1,100. And this is my eyes are just like, whoa, this is so cool.
Right, exactly. I mean, if you can cash flow, get them for 50,000, get them for 60,000. That's sort of our bread and butter, and they cash flow 6, 7, 8, 900 a month. Makes all the difference in the world. By the way, you mentioned the 1% rule. Just put up on the screen here. We do have a video that specifically talks about the 1% rule. So if people at home are wondering what Paul was just talking about, we kind of walk you through exactly what that looks like for 1%. Of the cost and how that all breaks down for your value. Just talk about the country in large, and what are you seeing right now in your market? We keep hearing people talking about the West Coast, Silicon Valley, those types of areas with a bit of a bubble. People ask me all the time, is a bubble? What about if there's going to be a housing crisis? How does that affect you? And I just say I don't see it. Personally, I don't see it, and it won't really affect where I invest necessarily because I'm in boring sort of Midwest cities with blue collar American-based jobs with people that work at the local hospitals, the Amazon distribution center, the FedEx distribution hub, those types of places. So I'm not in those Miami, San Francisco, I would even say maybe Portland. I don't know. So how does it look for you guys out there in Portland right now in the Pacific Northwest?
And another amazing question there. So Portland, this is where I actually get to make up for bagging on Portland for its rental properties, because we're a great equity market. We're not a great cash flow market, but we are an amazing equity market. We've had double-digit appreciation for, I don't know, probably 3 consecutive years or more. And I think we actually benefit a lot from being tucked in between Seattle and San Francisco. I can't even tell you how many companies have satellite offices here because they can pay their people less and they have a better lifestyle. So they're like, yeah, I'll move to Portland. Great. And we have a pretty high concentration of high paying jobs here in the Portland area. So it helps drive prices. So there's always great equity opportunities here. And unfortunately, it's a blessing and a curse. That's probably why my focus stayed on flipping for so long, because it was easy to just write off buy and holds with such a great equity market. So.
Yeah, anytime you go to a real estate meetup, the guys in the room, who are buy and hold investors, you ask them what's their biggest regret. It's the houses they didn't hold on to, right? It's the houses they flipped instead of held. So I can totally hear that in your voice. I've done that quite a bit in New Jersey too. When I first was starting out, the deals that I had my hands on way back when, and I didn't hold on to them for the cash flow. Huge.
Oh, I know.
Big learning curve, right?
Oh yeah. And as far as the future of our market, man, I mean, about 2 months ago, our market just slammed on the brakes. And everybody here is talking about how it's the end of the world and we're going to have another recession, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think that that's a lot of hype. And and I hope that people listening to this aren't necessarily buying into that fear. And I hope they're doing their own research, because, fear-based economies are never good.
Well, I'm curious, what led to that? Why did people just slam on the brakes there? I mean, interest rates haven't really gone up much at all, and I could see how that might affect the first-time home buyer market a little bit. But where did this come from? I mean, right now we're seeing crazy returns in the stock market, right? Which that's on one side of things. We're seeing new construction and builders can't keep up with the demand right now. So why did people in Portland, and I see this in other parts of the country, are just kind of like putting on the brakes a little bit? Why?
I oversimplify things sometimes, and this is one of those times. We looked at all the numbers, and by the numbers, this is still an extremely healthy seller's market. But perception is so many people's reality, and if your house doesn't sell in 15 seconds with multiple offers, all of a sudden you think you're in a recession. The truth of the matter is we still have a desirable inventory number, And the why, honestly, I just think people got sick of dealing with prices going up on them all the time. I know that's super oversimplified and not very economically sound, but I just think the market got tired of it. Working
We
with a
saw
lot
the
of
same thing in
buyers.
California. I don't think you're oversimplifying it at all. I think, my mother-in-law just sold her house last year in California. And when she was in the process of selling it, suddenly, it was a real hot seller's market, but it just kind of ground down a little bit. But still, that grinding down a little bit still is a hot market. It's still fine. Okay, so it didn't sell in 15 days. So it sold in 45 days. That's still pretty darn good, right?
I think people are focusing on price reduction because to them, they're pulling money out of their pocket. And I think that's what's getting people the most freaked out. But the truth of the matter is it was overpriced. And I think that's why the market did put on the brakes, because people got tired of losing out on bids to multiple offers that were outrageous. People got tired of having to think, completely unlogically and totally emotionally to make a home purchase. And it's discouraging to put multiple offers in on properties and continue to lose out.
Yeah.
So I honestly think all those things play into it, and people just got tired of it. They want a normal, healthy market now.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what we're headed towards anyway. A normal, healthy market. Well, my guest has been Paul Campbell, who's been kind enough to spend part of his afternoon with us here on the show. Paul, what's next for you? How can people connect with you?
Pretty easy. Yeah, just hit me up on my email. It's Paul C at Core Group Portland. Oh, sorry, coregrouppdx.com.
Cool.
So
I'll have that in the show notes as well.
coregrouppdx.com.
And where do you go from here? How many properties are you looking to acquire in 2019?
Oh man, 2019 is going to be a big shift in our business. We're going to try and pick up at least 30 holds. So that's the game. And obviously focus on the brokerage and helping our team build their wealth as well. Teach them how to do the same stuff.
Awesome. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for sharing some Pacific Northwest insights with us.
Man, it was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. And thanks to all of you at home for downloading and subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please do. And you heard about what we were talking about, the Freedom Number cheat sheet. If you haven't had a chance to download that, please do as well. It's very simple. Just head on over to morrisinvest.com/freedom. Download it. It's 3 pages. It'll help you figure out your path to financial freedom and how many rental properties it would take for you to reach freedom. So like I say, always go out there, take action, become a real estate investor. I believe it's the #1 way to build wealth. We'll see you next time, everyone.